I have an issue. That's it, end of video. No, actually, I have an issue with this particular iron set, and I want to answer some of the problems you have in your golf game currently and what you can potentially do about them, because I'm not going to moan about Delofted irons. You need a Delofted iron when the iron itself is this chunky. They don't just do it for laughs, and yes, potentially it helps them sell golf clubs, i.e. the 7-iron goes further, but there is science behind it. My particular issue is with the golf clubs themselves, the entire set, from shaft to set makeup, fore to gap wedge, and the head type at the top of it. And hopefully through watching this video, you'll have a bit more of an understanding of why I think this build of golf club is completely wrong for, well, everyone. Earlier today, I met up with a very nice gentleman, David, who got in touch, that watches the channel, and recently acquired a few of his golf clubs. He'd been out of the game for quite a while, wanted a set to get back into the game, and this is what he chose. However, he didn't quite like them. Interestingly, he had a standalone Miura 7-iron, which has kindly been donated to this room. And not only is it great for this particular video where I get to compare these both side by side, but obviously for anyone that comes and tests his clubs in this room, if you want to know what a blade feels like, this is it. Now, I know Dave himself is a good golfer. He's now got ping I59s and probably lofted to somewhere where his club head speed actually matches, and that will become more apparent as we go through this. And I'm not recreating Dave's swing by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the typical scenarios I would see if someone wants this maximum forgiving set of irons. These have got stiff flex shafts, so even if I hadn't met Dave, I would presume someone's got a decent club head speed. So for argument's sake, we're going to go around 85 miles an hour for the entirety of this test, with every single shot, keeping one thing constant. So let's talk about player A, i.e. my swing. Pretty happy with that, 86 miles an hour. The shot itself, we are very happy with. 200 yards with our 27.5 lofted 7-iron, aka a 5-iron. But if I was giving this person a lesson and this was consistent and they were happy with that shot shape, fine, got nothing wrong with it. Golf is completely different. If you want to nut your 7-iron 200 yards, fantastic. I will show you why that can be a detriment, but golf is a very intricate game. Play it how you like. Here's the issue. Our 7-iron is already launching relatively low, even though I've got a very neutral angle attack, which most people looking for these particular irons won't. They'd be steep. Not to mention, I'm into out, therefore I need the club face open at target to start it off this way to bring it back in, which is going to add loft. And adding to that, I've got relatively good club head speed, but not that much backspin. And I'm pretty sure you're starting to see where this is going to go. Now, I'm doing myself a complete disservice as I'm making it very hard to ever sell the set of irons that I acquired from Dave, as this whole set makeup to me doesn't make sense. I've got the 4-iron in my hands, 18.5 degrees loft, which if you don't know is essentially a 2-iron. And for me, that rings alarm bells, as any beginner going into a big cavity back head like this, for example, is looking for maximum forgiveness, isn't always going to strike it out the middle, and more likely won't have decent angle of attack, club path, you name it. But let's just say they do. They absolutely flush it. Great club head speed, great angle attack. This is slightly longer, so let's say this goes around 90 miles an hour, for example. Oh, I swung that way too fast, 100 miles an hour. Not anywhere where I need it. But again, let's have a look at the numbers. 100 miles an hour, so we're a bit far off, but that could be a potential. This is the most optimistic you could ever imagine a person using this set to have in terms of that 4-iron in the set makeup. And I ask you, who is ever needing a 246-yard 4-iron shot? Essentially, it's not a 4-iron, it's a 2-iron. Yes, we'd all take that, but if you're hitting that particular shot shape, you're probably not using these types of irons. The reason that that particular player won't want these clubs going forward, even though that's great, is because of the bad shots. If I hit the same shot with the 7-iron, let's go around that 85-mile-an-hour mark, and I pull it, I close the club face, look where it goes. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be saying, Simon, you can hit this pull shot with every single golf club in the bag, and I agree with you. The limits can be made better. Let me explain. I've pulled it, I've snap hooked it, it's gone left. Our spin rate has dropped because it wasn't really that high when we were hitting decent shots straight at the target. Launch angle is low, spin rate's incredibly low because again, it's delofted a lot, which is the whole reason us nutters opt for something like this. It isn't for our ego. Well, yes, it is. It's completely for our ego. But if I was to swing the club at the same speed, yes, I'm not going to get as much distance. But we're looking for control, and this is all it is. We're limiting the bad shots. If we could all hit our 7-iron 200 yards, dead straight, down the middle, wind doesn't touch it, of course we're going to do it. But we're trying to stop our bad shots so that if we do pull it a tiny bit left with our 7-iron, we're going to get more spin, we're going to get more launch, and it's going to come down softer so that I'm not buried out of bounds, but I've still got a shot into the green. Okay, my numbers are completely out because that was just my normal swing. 94 miles an hour, but as you can see, it didn't go as far. I will hit another one, but you can see the spin rate, and then look at the launch angle, even though I've pulled it. So even if I'd hit that straight down the target line, my launch would be up, my spin rate would also be up. Therefore, I'm still on the planet and not buried myself into the trees. That's the only reason you would put yourself through the pain going forward, as you just get that more control even on bad shots. Right, quick straight one with the Miura, just to see what my numbers are like with it. Hopefully that's closer to the 85 mile an hour, 82. All right, we're taking it. But this is the kind of yardage I would want from a Miura. 160 total, 155 carry, decent spin, decent launch. Well, I hope it is, I haven't seen them yet. That's the kind of numbers I expect from a 7-iron. Closer to that 22 launch angle, spin rate now in the 5,000s, slightly down on it, efficiency good, club head speed, perfect, perfect, perfect. However, we can't stop there, and this is going to address a lot of stuff for a lot of you guys. Whether you keep your 4-iron in the bag, whether you keep your 5-iron in the bag, maybe you just go 6 to sand wedge, because a lot of this is going to make sense. Typically, if I see someone with a set of these clubs quite offset, i.e. that toes turned in, and they love their 7-iron, I normally can guarantee that they can't hit their 4 or 5 to save their life. Stereotypical beginner golfer looking for these clubs will have a strong grip slightly down the left-hand side, and they do that, that's not a bad thing, because they come across it. So they need that club face closed. Again, let's go around the 80 mile an hour mark and watch this shot shape. That is probably quite typical in terms of a shot shape for a lot of golfers that would look for this. And for that 7-iron that's gone 183 yards, we would be delighted. Would have stopped on the green, happy days. However, our launch is getting lower because we're closing that club face down even more just to start it enough left. And we're going to be hitting down on it more because we're coming over the top, as you can see there. Spin rate's getting lower. And as I say, I've got nothing wrong with that. Weekend player, plays once a month, doesn't want anything super bladed. This is the club that I have an issue with for that particular swing. It's a good swing, slightly across it. We only came out to in by 5-6 degrees. You still got a decent shot shape on it himself, but it launched at 16 degrees with a 27.5 static loft of the 7-iron. So what's the 4-iron going to launch at? And this is my whole thing when it comes to building a bag, finding what works for you. Why I love secondhand equipment, because you just don't know, you might love it. This might be a perfect set for you. Maybe you need stiff flex for whatever reason. Maybe you do need 4 to pitching wedge. You love the 240 yard 4-iron. We can make these mistakes, and ultimately you can tinker your technique, because if I take the same swing, let's go a tiny bit faster because it's a longer club, so naturally that player would swing it faster, and we'll try and get a similar swing path and numbers as I did with the 7-iron, but watch the distance, watch the launch angle, watch how far this ball then goes. Okay, perfect. 84.9, back on the line. I think we can all agree that was a decent strike and a decent shot. Here's the issue with the 4-iron. The launch angle, incredibly low. And I did catch some of them, some a bit faster, some a bit softer, but you can see the spin rate, how low it is. I even pulled that one a tiny bit left over the last 4 shots, and we got 138 carry, 162 yards carry. That one I caught at 189 and went 213. But realistically, if we look at our 7-iron distance, 170 yards, there's no wonder so many people love their 7-iron compared to their 4-iron. It's a lot harder to hit. Those numbers are extremely unforgiving. You hit it slightly heavy, slightly out the toe, you're going to get 138 carry. You're going to get 162 carry. You potentially aren't going to hit it as far as well your 7-iron. And again, those swings are relatively generous. I could go across it even more and even more steeper and a stronger grip, which this typical player would have. And we'd see a very low, extremely low, left to right shot with very little launch. And the majority of the time, that player would be trying to help the 4-iron to get it up in the air, which ultimately knocks more spin off. Hence why I think this particular set makeup, 4 to A wedge with a stiff flex shaft, wouldn't suit anyone. I hear a lot of you going, Simon, what's the answer? I know I already can't hit my 4-iron. Or maybe you're player A that absolutely destroys his 7-iron 180 yards, but if you pull it, it goes 210 yards left. If you're player A and you hit your 7-iron 180 yards plus, you've potentially outgrown your cavity backs. You potentially need more loft. Player B that comes across the golf ball and obviously hits a very low left to right shot with a good portion of their clubs, i.e. their 5, 4 and 6 go the same distance as their 7 because the launch angle is way too low. Welcome to your 5 wood. Welcome to your 7 wood. It's longer. It's going to have more club head speed. It's going to increase launch. Bearing in mind, this 5 wood at 18 degrees is lofted the same as that 4-iron. Yet even though I will come across this, just like I did with the 4-iron, and you see that particular shot shape there, look at the difference in height. That's a bit more like it. Just like that pulley left shot with the 4-iron we just had there, that basically didn't go anywhere, very low, left to right, carried 130 odd yards, we've come across it, we've come down on it. But because we use a 5 wood, and I'll explain in a minute, our launch angle is up. Our club head speed is the same as the 4-iron before. Also, our spin rate is up, which means this 5 wood carried 177 and went a total distance of 194, not to mention how much more forgiving the club in general is going to be. And quickly comparing it to the 4-iron, which I swung the 4-iron faster than the 5 wood, look at the numbers just because I changed the head type and shaft. 8.7 with the 4-iron, 14.2. More spin with the 5 wood, even though I swung it slower and we got 5 miles an hour less ball speed, yet our carry distance was the same and our stopping power was better. Essentially what I'm saying is unless you have this 4-iron in the bag as just a utility driving iron, like this for example, oh, she was well hit. This could be my new fairway finder after this whole video. 262 4-iron, not bad. Here it is plain and simple. If you hit your 7-iron 190 yards and you use something like this, I highly recommend getting something a bit slimmer. It's going to help your averages, not just that one shot you're trying to impress in front of your mates on a par 3 that's 200 yards long. If your 7-iron is your favorite club in the bag and goes 165, 170 for example, and you can't hit your 4-iron for love nor money, just take it out of the bag. Just give yourself a hybrid. If you don't want to work on your technique or potentially swing path, angle attack, get rid of the 4. This 4 should never exist in my eyes. Then there's player C that's looking for a tiny bit more distance. You hit your 7-iron, 110, 120, and you want more. This is something to have a look at. It will get that ball launching higher, even though it is delofted at that particular clubhead speed. Don't get it in steel, get it in graphite, and I highly recommend either going 6 to pitching wedge or 7 to pitching wedge and using the same technique as we did there with a 7 wood in the bag, then a 5 wood, then a driver. Guys, if you like this video, you might like this video up here where I give you all the myths, all the truths about drivers and how to hit yours further. Catch you guys later.